can then spread, can then give lessons, can then work with people, say, in Syria to build up that kind of proliferation of civil society organizations that I think, not just foreign policy per se, we think of as kind of the great game and big politics talking to each other. I think these revolutionaries, that I could very likely see them becoming, Egypt becoming a model for change at the civil society level.
And the direction of foreign policy in Egypt will be what is best for Egypt. First of all, Egypt will play the role in its place, and its place is in the northeast corner of Africa, where during the Mubarak days, or 30 years, we've completely forgotten the fact that we are actually part of Africa, and we forgot that the country south of us is in Sudan. There were fights in Darfur and unrest, and we had nothing to do with it. There was all kinds of things there, and the foreign policy is going to be more of the place of Egypt and based on where Egypt is. So number one is our place in Africa. Number two is our place in the Arab world, and all of the things that are happening with the Palestinian is that too. And beyond that is also the relationship of Iran and Turkey to the rest of the Arab countries. So all of these will be the basic strength of the foreign policy in the future, or at least in the near future.
Yeah, and I would also say that the identity of Egypt has always been that of a regional leader. And part of what has been happening, Egyptians have a strong sense of dignity and pride. And I think over the past couple of decades, as Egypt has lost its leading position in foreign policy, that sense of pride has been hurt. And you can see that, I think, in the way people have galvanized around some of the very prominent, the Egyptians were very prominent internationally, like Amr Moussa and al-Baradei, because those people have represented Egypt on the international scene in a very dignified way, in a way that made Egyptians proud. And so now I think you'll see people are hungry to regain that place of leadership. And that's why I don't think you'll see an Egypt that closes in on itself. Potentially from an economic, perhaps a social perspective, it'll close in the immediate term to solve some of the tough internal issues. But I think politically, you'll see people pushing the government to take a much more hands-on approach to the regional political issues. Yeah, there was a question here.
Yeah, so you were talking about actually Egypt's role in Africa. So I was wondering, just kind of at the beginning, after the revolution, I think there was a lot of hope that like there'd be this domino effect and kind of every lousy government across the world would just magically disappear. And I think, at least in my head, like Gaddafi in Libya kind of complicated that a little bit. It probably slowed down people's hopes that transition just isn't as simple as one might originally think. But then, so in particular with regard to Africa, I remember, I forget if it was before or after the revolution, but there was a small article in the Times about Zimbabwe and some like bustling that was going on there, but then Mugabe, I think, kind of closed it quickly. But I guess my question is there still momentum from this revolution that might kind of clean up some of the big man dictatorships that exist in Africa?
No, I don't think the role of Egypt in Africa is going to be to fight some of the dictators, but actually to gain a little bit more of the central power that it used to have as a partner in trade, both in and out, as well as to make certain that the future of the Nile is satisfied with absolutely no hint of any lessening of the amount of water that gets to Egypt, and that requires friendships and good relations with the riparians of the Nile. There were 10 countries around the eastern part of Africa.
There's a question up here.
Start with my question, please. Yes. So back to the development corridor and this discussion. Milad Khan has the 7 pillars of Egyptian character: the African, the Coptic, the Islamic, and the Middle Eastern. And is the development corridor trying to extend Egypt toward Africa, or take account of its Middle Eastern role as well, or Mediterranean role? That's